Today, this is the second day of DevGAMM, and this is a second day with the Fireside chats. We have Simas of FunPlus today, and let's introduce Simas. Lera, what's the best way to introduce Simas? What do you say?
So I remembered from our small talk that he was struggling with coding for like long period of time for no reason. I don't understand still why. Why would you do that?
We can get to that.
And the second one, that you've been working in the company, Sunflower Power, and those like Candy Crush games.
The games that people actually play. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. You see, it's very, very, very smart facts.
Speaking about smart facts, what's the smart way to introduce Simas?
Yeah, Simas is the head of operations. And he has a very rich background in game development. That's what I remember. And he has worked for many cool and big and small companies.
Yes. And also he likes music very much.
And creates music. And
yes.
Conducts music as a DJ.
Yes, Simas, and struggling with code.
And struggling with code. What's the part of yours as a person or as a professional that we haven't so proud of that you want that for people to know?
No, I think you guys did an excellent. So thanks for the intro. I guess you did a pretty good sum up. I really want to come back to the coding part because like after our last conversation, I really had to do some thinking as well, because like your question of like, what took you so long actually got me thinking, and I think I know the answer to that, but we can get back to that.
But one say right, so we invite you more. And can ask you this question once
it's
again.
Like a therapist, like you came to us, we are like, what are you doing with your life?
Isn't everyone asking that question deeply inside?
We will get into the philosophy if we have time. Now it's time for questions. Who has a question for Simas?
Well, yes, me. I'm usually starting here with all the questions. Well, as far as I remember, the majority of your colleagues, Siemens, are in China. So I guess you started the changes like earlier than the rest of the companies in the world. And my first question is, how was your business strategy? How did it change in 2020?
Yeah, so I think I should start from saying that as a company, FunPlus, we have multiple offices and multiple studios in different parts of the world. The biggest one being in China, but we've recently in Europe, in Stockholm. We have another studio in Moscow. So there, as you mentioned, yes, since China was sort of the first hit or hardly hit with Corona pandemic, the hardest at the first big country to be hit by that. So a lot of changes started there. But the thing is that we're mostly witnessing what we're seeing is here in Stockholm, because I think the approach that Sweden has taken and is radically different from the rest of the world. And then we as a studio have to take very different measures as well to make sure that we can keep everybody safe and make sure that we're also conducting our business as efficiently as possible. So that's a quick starting point. Whereas like I think the approaches that are being taken in China and the approaches that are being taken here in Stockholm are very different when it comes down to working. Also, in working culture, we have to tailor it to the talent we have and to the sort of cultures that they're coming from, and that's also differs quite a bit what we have in China and what we have here in Stockholm. So I would say like it's easier for me to talk about the Stockholm situation and how we changed our strategy around this. So I'll focus mostly on that. So what we did is, so first of all, maybe I started at FunPlus around like 7 months ago. So I started in April, where basically when things began to get really out of hand everywhere in the world, and my very first day at FunPlus was working from home, actually. So this is an interesting one, which was the first experience for me ever before starting at a new company, not in the team, but working from home, not being a freelancer, that is. So we at that time already we began as a studio thinking of what would be the different ways of conducting our business effectively, and then what we decided that we're going to follow first and foremost the government recommendations on how to deal with staff office operations and things like that. But in general, I think as a gaming industry, mobile games, it's it's a different story. Well, slightly different story for AAA games, but like for mobile games industry, we're slightly in a better position to deal with this because our teams are usually smaller. So it's easier to transition to different ways of working, either being like coming back together to the office to work together or moving other setups of the team. So I think for us, it was much easier to just make a decision that to move
How big is your team in
towards.
Stockholm?
It's not big, actually. So there are two teams actually in Stockholm. They're working on slightly different things, but so the entire Stockholm studio is around 20 people right now, and it consists of two teams. So I would say one of the teams that I'm working with is around it's 10 people as of today. It's not big. It's not tiny, but it's definitely not big by any game development standards.
Do you want to
And
boast that both teams are cherry picked and like hand picked, and all the people, like most of them, as I understand, you got them like from different studios all around and assembled one place. So sort of almost like a bunch of like good ex-colleagues or even friends working together. Or am I
so yeah, I would say that there's a lot of truth in that, where at least in the first part of what you just said, cherry picked, and also the team that I'm working with directly on day-to-day basis is not entirely based in Sweden or Stockholm alone. So we're my very direct team is working actually through 3 different time zones. Some of them being as far as 9 hours apart, and not to the China side, but to the other side. So it's so even not even being a part of the same company, but even being a part of the same team, we are sort of embracing the changing situation and building our new ways of working around that. Where it comes down to cherry picking the team, absolutely. I think every company should strive for that, because I'm a firm believer, and always was a firm believer, that a team makes or breaks a product. And when I say a team, I mean not specific individual, but the actual team, how they get together, because you might pick the best talent in the world and they might not stick as a leading a team. One of your first jobs is to actually make sure that you build a team that can deliver and work effectively together and is a good cultural fit together. And that will differ even in the same company or in the same location. That can differ based on like what kind of other personalities, what kind of other cultures do you have in your team. So yes, we did cherry pick the team a lot, and I think we're trying to get the best talent in the studio.
That's nice.
So
yeah.
pretty much the team members are new to each other as well, right?
Partly, no, yes and no. Some of them are new to each other, but I think most of them have worked with each other at directly, or just seen in each other. This is something that I guess a lot of even the big tech hubs or like big tech locations are sort of gossiping around, that basically is saying, oh, the industry is very small, and that you get to know a lot of people and you meet the same people a lot of times. So Stockholm's not immune to that. Most people you'll meet in the gaming industry or in the tech industry, they will have worked at some of the big companies like King or really big tech and gaming companies that a lot of people will have on their resume, because it's they employ a lot of people, and they mostly employ really great talent, and that's where that great talent just moves around and they meet each other. So
So
there's
how many people in your team have awesome blossom hoodie?
Flower power.
Or either awesome blossom or flower power. This is internal joke for blossom blast on the game.
Yeah, I think a good portion of it. So I would say like around at least 4 or 5 people have worked on that game, which is says to what Oleg said before, that it's much more, it's easier when you're working with hiring, right? Like you first and foremost, you want to hire the right person for the right job. And when you're choosing from different candidates, it's not that you want to surround yourself with the friends or colleagues you've worked with. I think that's not fully accurate. I think you're more evaluating different candidates. And in our scenario, it just happened. I think it's more of a consequence than anything else that it just happened that way. Ex-colleagues from working on different projects.
So I have a question. So I was about to ask you how you're getting ready for year to 2021, because 2020 was a harsh year with the so random stuff happening around. So what are you expecting from 2021?
Yeah, a good question actually. So so we're expecting to grow a little bit in our team. That's first, like directly. If I'm thinking like industry wise, I want to come back a little bit to this year, and I think despite of all the horrible things that happen in the world, I do think there has been a lot of positivity and a lot of progress when it comes down to how we work and how people collaborate in the world. And I think this fact that we're different countries and different like big portions of population have been forced into outside of the office, that actually fast forwarded the progress and fast forwarded the necessary that makes people realize that you don't necessarily need to be in the same location anymore, right? Or you don't need to physically be in the same office anymore, which of course a lot of people who have been freelancing for a long time, they'll be like, yeah, come on, we knew this 15 years ago, and that's true. But I think big companies, and especially certain industries that have been very even proud, I would say, from the fact that their synergies are coming from the fact that everyone's like physically located in the same area where you can come and just ping your colleague and share ideas. I think this year has proven that it's possible to actually move that online setup as well to an effective online setup. And for us, it was definitely a journey that we discovered as well, that it actually works. And the setup we've chosen for our studio as of today is actually that work at the office is optional. Basically, you will have a place in the office. Like if you want to come to the office, well, at this very second, no, because of regulations and recommendations by the Swedish government. But the idea long term is that office is a place. Come to the office, great. Please come here. You'll have your desk, either your own desk, or we'll have, depending on the size of the studio, we will probably have hot desks for people to just come in and to do their work. The idea is that as a studio, we want to provide really flexible and comfortable working environment for people at home. So we offer like separate budget for them to set up their home office. Like we help with the furniture, make sure everything is basically comfortable and you can conduct your work at the comfort of the home if you choose so, right? But yet again, if you choose to work from the office, and that's better for you because I don't know, you have kids running around and not allowing you to focus, if that's a thing, then you can definitely to the office and work from there. So that's sort of the biggest change, I think, for us as a studio, and I know a lot of other studios have been going through a similar process as well, which right now sounds straightforward, but the devil is always in the details. And how do you actually set it up effectively? How do you make people not feel they're still connected? They're still part of the same team. They're, not
Yes,
just
how?
individuals contributing to
Yeah,
the
I was
same.
exactly
How? I mean,
about to ask.
see, do
Yeah.
you have a
So, well,
special process? Like, is it a process? Is it a tool? Is it a combination? Like, if you were to advise like one thing, since I mean, you're scattered around the world, both physically and also like culturally, right? Because like
yeah.
the bosses are sort of both hours away and also cultures away, and it's all remote, and you cannot get together and get drunk and sort of you know
You can
network.
get drunk in Zoom call. It's fine.
And
And
then people are
by the
traveling
way,
out of the big cities as well, so that might be a problem as well.
yeah. Well, one thing that actually, so what we said is, part of our setup is what we said that we established available hours. So what we said, like that basically, based on your current setup, like you can, as a team member, you can work, like you can select hours you're working at, but like there are certain hours, like a certain time during the day where you're supposed to be available. That means if your colleagues would like to ask you something or just be available to other team members. And outside of that, like people are free to sort of set up their working schedule to make sure they deliver on. Like coming back to the question of how do we, to your question, you can't come together and get grab drinks. We do quite a lot of like hangouts. So in Sweden we have this culture of fika. So basically, where at a day everyone would meet, grab some cake, grab some coffee, tea, whatever, or whatever is your drink. We do that, but we do that through a Slack call. So everyone just jumps in, puts their camera on, grabs their coffees, grabs their whatever snacks they have, and we just hang out. We do the same for like we do some Friday hangouts as well, where everyone just joins in. We would maybe throw in, like last Friday, for example, we just threw in like a Jackbox TV, everyone just playing on that while we're sort of streaming it on a call.
Yes,
Sorry?
you can. That's a great solution. I'm saying that's amazing. Like
That's a very
Yeah.
sad solution. It's
I
called
know, I like it,
2020.
like-
Well, but-
Solution 2020.
Well,
you don't
what
need
can-
to go out. Like,
It's one thing that actually I've noticed personally that this whole working from home setup like exacerbated a lot is sort of the polarization for people's preferences, right? Like some people have become much more vocal about the fact that they actually really don't like working from the office because for them it's noisy, it's distracting, and another group of people were beginning to get much more vocal about the fact that they actually are missing that. So it's so we have to. Wait, are you the first part or the second?
I want to go to the office and hug everybody I see. I mean, I haven't hugged people at mass for a while as
Right.
well. So
and then I'm
Right.
second one because like I don't want to. I'm
To
fine
get
sitting at
hugged?
home. Fine sitting at
For
home.
me personally, it changed. It changed because I used to be a person where I used to, like long time ago, I used to work a lot from home, and it maybe didn't work out that well. Then I was a really big fan of actually coming to the office. But then when you are in a really big office, and when I say like a really big office that's having a few hundred people in the same open space, it just becomes taxing on you like mentally, right? Like it becomes like you'll need to find your own like routines to get focused, especially when you need focused work done, someone not to interrupt you with things. So like recently I actually found that for me working from home, especially when I need to get focus work done, it's perfect setup when it comes
and
to
also
that.
office politics. You don't have office politics at home. You have home politics. Like you have to deal with your dad.
Yeah, home politics. That's right. But then also like one thing that we've used quite a bit in the studio during the summer, when in Sweden we're a bit less strict than they are right now. We would use the office more strategically. We would basically say like if there are things that we cannot, figure out, or like over Slack calls, or seeing that it's slow, things are moving slowly, then we would just like, okay, let's everyone get masks and let's meet up in the office actually physically and try to make a meeting in the office, so more of a strategic meeting place in the office, and that actually worked brilliantly. And of course some things that people lacked were like whiteboards and stuff like that where you can just model, but now there's like plenty great online tools. We're using Miro a lot, which
Miro.
I think is like an excellent tool for any whiteboarding big.
That's a great one.
Yeah, so we use that really a lot, and then I would say too much, because people get trigger happy, like, oh, I have all this board space and I can create all of these amazing boards, and then you have a lot of boards.
Lots of boards, lots of stuff on the board, and no work done. Look, but the board is so beautiful.
What do you mean? No, I think this is the luxury you have in a great team where everyone's like very engaged, where people are actually asking themselves the question, the right thing I should be focusing on, and this is worthwhile doing. And if the answer is yes, then go ahead. They're gonna go and do that board that's gonna help the rest of the team. If not, then probably they're not gonna bother.
So, do we have time for another question? Or are we? I think we have 5 minutes of our time. Do we have questions left for Simas, or shall we roll the page?
Just ask one last question. So, what are you most excited right now to talk about? Like the most excited thing out of all this conversation?
There's a lot of things actually I'm excited about, but I think like in the spirit of sticking to the sort of the topic of the conversation and how things are set up like around the office, like one piece of thing that has been became evident throughout this year, specifically, I don't know, maybe it's a Swedish problem, maybe it has to do a lot with like legislation and local governments actually, and how do we attract talent to the company without without physically relocating them. I think that's a big topic for us, at least, because of course if people are willing to relocate, we will do everything we can, but the thing is, working remotely, we've realized that it's not entirely necessary, especially if people are not willing to relocate. We can still leverage their talent. Unfortunately, a lot of governments are actually not ready for like full legislation for that, to make sure how the taxation works, and how do people make sure they get all the benefits of being employed in one country, but also like getting all the benefits of staying in their own country, and how do we sort of handle with that. So what I'm really hopeful actually is for maybe next year or within the coming years for governments to push much more legislation that would support this type of working, both for the employers but also like for the employees to be able to join and work at companies remotely without being freelancers.
Yeah, sure. That makes sense. Yeah.
We have to stop the stream, and normally we have this what I have learned today game, but hey, we don't have time for it because I missed the schedule. Hey, see, you can blame me for that. But we are turning to backstage at DevGAMM and see you there, people at DevGAMM, people at YouTube. Goodbye, and let's do our creepy wave thingy. So